Anyways, moving right along with the little Champions League and Europa League qualifiers. I had a really good rant before we even started recording that I wish we had gotten on recording, but I'm not even going to try to replicate it. But the reason we're talking about this is just because my Romanian teams that are in the qualification for the tournament, but both won Steaua Bucharest, who has a Champions League trophy to their name back in the 80s, by the way.
Crazy.
They won their qualifying, so they're now in the second qualifying round of the Champions League. Only 3 more to go before we're in there. And then in the Europa League, my favorite team from Romania also won their first qualifying round against the team that they were playing as well. So both teams that have played so far are through. We do have 2 more teams playing in the Conference League qualies a little bit later today. But I just wanted to get on here and kind of rant about the stupidity of the Champions League. I know we get on here almost every time we talk about the Champions League and say how top heavy it is and all this stuff. But after doing a deep dive of the qualification, I'm heated as I can't say citizen anymore, but as a person who was born in a quote unquote small footballing country, even though we used to be large, the disservice that they are doing, I feel like, to a lot of these quote unquote smaller countries, I think deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. It's not going to, because all the money is with the big boys, but absolutely insane how, fifth place in England gets an automatic Champions League bid. Fifth place in Spain getting an automatic Champions League bid, while champions of quote unquote, again, smaller countries have to go through 3, sometimes 4 qualifying rounds to just get a sniff at the Champions League, which obviously makes it incredibly difficult. Obviously, with the new format and everything, 36 teams in the Champions League now, 30 of which are already taken by the big boys. Usually, like I said, 4th, 5th, third, whatever, through the first 3 or 4 teams in the big countries getting automatic bids, and the smaller countries left with scraps. But I just think it's absolutely insane that so many of these countries have to go through so many qualifying rounds just to even get a sniff at the Champions League. I think it's it's just pushing more and more teams out. This whole Conference League clownery now that we have, that somehow we still have teams from England and Germany winning it, even though it was technically supposed to be a tournament for smaller teams, make it more accessible for them. In the qualification rounds, I was telling Stallone before pod, but it used to be where you would, if you were in the Champions League qualifying round, for example, you would get, like if you lost in the first qualifying round, you'd get knocked down to the Europa League, et cetera, and until you got knocked out. But now if you're out in the first qualifying round, you drop all the way to the Conference League, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. We used to, I'm old enough to remember 2010, 11, 12, when if you won the Romanian League, you were automatically in the Champions League. Obviously, our coefficient was a lot better back then, but now we're in the first qualifying round, which means we have to go through 4 different qualifying rounds to even participate. Wow. So very, very frustrating. One last thing I'll say on the whole qualification as well. We have 4 total spots in the European competitions as the Romanian country. Our first place team goes into the first qualifying round. So like I said, 4 different rounds to get in the Champions Leagues. Who knows if usually we get knocked out in the first or second, sometimes third qualifying round. Then we get knocked down to the Europa and whatever. But going back to the league, we do have a second spot that goes to the Europa League. That goes to our domestic cup. So there's no way that you can play in the league and go directly into Europa. You have to win the domestic cup. And then we only have 2 Conference League spots. So again, the Conference League was made for the quote unquote smaller teams, but how is Romania still only getting two teams into the Conference League? Like that's an absolute aberration, where it's like, there's other teams that are getting 3, like Armenia and Latvia and Ireland and some of these other teams, and England, Italy, Spain, Germany, and they still get at least 1 team in there, if not multiple, because they're dropping down, like I said, from the Europa League and their qualifiers. So absolute disservice. I know a lot of people were probably lost in the sauce with that, just because if you're not super into this stuff like I am, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But I guess I'll just kind of throw it over to you, Fezzy boy. I just think it's, it's been top heavy for a number of years now, and they keep doing things that are quote unquote better for smaller countries, or like, the trickle down effect or whatever. But if you really do a deep dive into them, it's not helping anybody, because the Champions League might as well be a super league at this point. It's just the best of the best getting in there with a couple minnows in there, just get destroyed 5-0 by these big time teams. And then even the quote unquote competitions for the smaller teams just get eaten up by, teams that shouldn't be even getting that far. And like I said, we're a quote unquote small country as far as FIFA is concerned now. We only have two teams getting in there, and that's not even guaranteed. That's qualification. So nothing's guaranteed. So very, very frustrating as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't understand it like you do, but I obviously understand it enough to know that the small teams are absolutely just getting hosed. Like the small leagues, the small countries, like just absolutely just it's all a money grab. And I remember when the Super League came out, obviously we were all against it because it was just like those teams individually were just trying to like create this competition that they could make all the money. But as it like started coming out, you saw like obviously we rooted for the Champions League, you know, not folding and the Super League like folding and ending. But it just kind of showed that like UEFA is just as corrupt as the Super League would have been.
It's
like,
almost like there's a backroom deal that went on during that Super League thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like let's nix the Super League talks, but this is how we're going to change the Champions League to make basically make it like a pseudo version of that.
Dude, freaking sports conspiracy right there. I mean, and that's probably not even that much of a stretch. Like, because if the teams were going to make more money joining the Super League, they just would have done that. Like the only way that, you know, UEFA was able to convince them not to do it was like, yeah, like you're saying, like, hey, we're going to change the format. It's going to be more bigger teams. It's really going to cut out like the smaller teams. More money is going to be available for everybody else. More games, more this. And that's a whole nother thing we could get into, just like the amount of games that players are playing, the amount of injuries that are happening, this, that, and the other. But yeah, like I said, I don't personally understand it as much as you do because you have done the research and taken a dive into it. But I definitely know when I see corruption, and it's pretty like, I mean, Chelsea just won the Conference League, a competition that was meant for smaller teams. And like, you know, whether you take it as a Mickey Mouse like competition or not, just won the Club World Cup against PSG and they won the Conference League. Like that team should not be in the Conference League.
Spain, Italy, England, and Germany should not even get a team in there, I don't think. Because if you're looking at the disparity in money and players in like club worth in general, like 8th place or whatever the frick in England dwarfs all the teams in the Conference League. Like you remember, like the teams that Chelsea was playing in the Conference League didn't even have freaking logos, some of them, on Google. Like that's how small we were. Like they were going to like villages in freaking Lithuania and crap to play.
For real.
Like, so yeah, super frustrating. And like one of the reasons I'm like so into this stuff is because like as a Romanian, like I'm watching our teams like struggle through the qualifiers. Like it kind of makes you aware of like the rules and the regulations and everything.
Right.
But like I've shared this story on the pod before, but like I remember, bro, like 10, 11, 12, when I was kind of starting to get into like really be into soccer and everything. Like like I said, we would have Romanian teams in the Champions League automatically. And then as our coefficient has gone down, it was obviously we were in the playoffs, but still would get a team in like every now and then. But bro, like the feeling when we would go to like Rome and get a result, we would get like a tie, or like I remember 2000, I want to say this is 11, when my team Cluj went to Old Trafford with Wayne Rooney and Sir Alex and all the boys and grinded out a 1-0 victory, bro. That's like, that is so good for the sport. It keeps an entire country. The entire country is rooting for that one team in the Champions League going up against the big boys. It keeps an entire country engaged.
Yeah.
I understand it might not be a freaking Madrid versus Manchester United getting all the TV money and everything, but like that's what it's about, bro. And that's what I think is lost in all this is like, obviously all those smaller teams that like all those experiences, bro. Like I don't know if like we're like, when's the last time we had a team in the Champions League? 2015. I don't see any time in the next 10 years where we're gonna get a team in there. So it's gonna be real rough. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
There you go.
Both of my teams that have been in the qualies have won their ties so far. You know, we'll see where we are from there. Maybe we'll give you guys updates as we kind of go along in the
Romanian updates,
qualies. But definitely frustrating.